Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Blood Splatter Chatter. We are live here on a Sunday doing a fun little, I was about to say double feature because that's what we've been doing on a lot of Sundays, but no, I got my buddy Peter with me, aka Lady. This is our first venture into horror television. I was telling the buddies last week. First of all, what's up, Peter? Well, welcome to Blood.
Hey, what's up? Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you being here. I was telling the homies, man, like I've got a buddy of mine. He's a big horror guy, and he's always asking me, like, dude, you're like so into horror. And in his opinion, he's like, this is where the best horror is on these television series. And a lot of people, I think it's a lot more mainstream. I feel like, I don't know, I was about to throw some number at it, but I feel like a lot of people that are into horror, this is more what they're into. These Mike Flanagan shows, Yellow Jackets. Like, I feel like you fall into that category, right? You watch a lot of these horror TV shows, but not a lot of horror movies, right?
This is like the only horror I do watch. It's like, and I'm really into it. Like this Yellow Jackets, especially. I guess like it started with American Horror Story. That's probably where it started for me. And like the Flanagan universe is similar to American Horror Story,
right?
In that, same actors come back for each project.
Right. Yeah, it is a really similar thing. I feel like American Horror Story, as it started to dip off, that's when Flanagan kind of came in and was like, back, get out of the way, bitches. Let me show you how this is done. In my opinion, like I feel like I watched like the first 3 seasons of that, and then my wife kept watching it, and I couldn't really keep up with it. But did you keep watching? Is it still good?
No, I lost track at Hotel, I think.
I don't even think I saw that one.
I think it was like season 4 or 5.
Right.
Stay down for a bit.
I dipped into one a couple years ago. It was like this really political one, and it wasn't bad. Nothing I've watched from there has been terrible, but I did want to run through Mike Flanagan's. If I didn't say, we're doing The Haunting of Hill House episodes 1 through 5, and we will not be spoiling. This is going to be the tricky part, Peter, or it might be, at least maybe for me. We're not going to be spoiling anything from episodes 6 through 10, and both of us have seen that. But for me, it's been a while. When was the last time that you watched like the whole series?
Okay, I did not know we were not spoiling 6 through 10, so
yeah,
I will control that for myself because my God, there's so much more I want to talk about because I love the show. The last time I watched it was maybe like a year ago, I think. This is definitely a show that I like to watch again because there's just so much going on, especially in the background, that you pick up more and more each time.
Right. For me, even specifically, just rewatching the first episode, and you're seeing the family member keep on giving Nell the asshole button, and Killer calls when she's calling. It's like, oh, like the first time you watch that, you don't think anything of it, but it hits. A lot of moments in this hit so much harder. But let's start there. I wanted to ask you about, I know you've probably seen, have you seen all of the other ones he's done? As far as his Netflix series, he did Haunting of Hill House, followed that up in 2020 with Haunting of Bly Manor, Midnight Mass in 2021. That's like his vampire one. The Midnight Club, which is the only other one that I watched some of, and I didn't fucking like, to be honest with you. It was all these like cancer patient and terminally ill patients. There was something about it that I wasn't into. And then his most recent one, which I didn't see, but everybody seemed to be loving, was The Fall of the House of Usher. Have you seen all of them?
Everything except for Bly Manor, and I think the Midnight Club as well.
I'd skip that one. I don't know. There was something about it where I'm like, I don't know. It seemed like it was maybe aimed at a different audience, but the big thing was, I don't know, because part of me feels like this show is at its best when it's sad. You know what I mean? Like it's a really sad,
like
show.
the combined metaphor of like trauma with horror and stuff.
Right. But in Midnight Club, from what I saw, it was like all these terminally ill patients, and like it was really sad, but it was almost too real. It's like, you know what I mean? We're dealing with ghosts in this and all this, like, crazy, fantasy type shit. With that, it's like they're dealing with cancer. There's something about that. Even the newest A Quiet Place, like the main character in that, Lupita Nyong'o, she's a cancer patient. I didn't like that either. It's just like, I don't know. There's something, it makes me feel not the way I like to feel in a horror movie.
It's not the type of death you like to see.
Right. I know. It's just like it hits a little too close to home. It's a little bit too fucking real. But what would you say would be your favorite one? Is this your favorite, or is there another one out of his Netflix series?
Mean, when I watched this, I was obsessed with it in like a similar way of like when Netflix's Daredevil came out. It was just like I consumed it so quickly and was like, this is such a unique show But then Midnight Mass, like I think, stole the spot of number 1 for me.
That's funny. When I mentioned that we were doing this to my buddies, E right here said, "Bro, if you're doing Midnight Mass, put me on your speed dial number 1." So I'll keep you in mind in that. I'd like to slowly, if you're down with it, Peter, I'd like to chip away at these with you. At Midnight Mass, I do plan on doing this big Fang Fest event in January, doing a bunch of vampire stuff, and maybe that would fit into there. So
that'd be perfect. Yeah.
We'll talk about that down the line. From what I've heard, I haven't watched it, but I've heard it's a really unique take on the vampire subgenre.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's run through his movies real quick. There was one that I didn't even know about. Absentia is his first one in 2011, which I haven't seen. Oculus from 2013. I loved that when it came out. I didn't know who Mike Flanagan was. We'll actually be covering that on the channel this Thursday. If you guys want to come and hang out with the homies on Thursday. And then he did Hush, which is a really cool cat and mouse home invasion movie. I think it's one of the best of its kind. Before I Wake Up, never seen. Ouija or Origin of Evil is supposed to be really good. Haven't seen. Gerald's Game, another Stephen King adaptation, which is great. I thought that was really creepy, really good. And then Dr. Sleep, the sequel to The Shining, which was way better than I ever thought it could be. And then he has a new movie coming out, another adaptation of a Stephen King story, The Life of Chuck, which is labeled as a drama. So I'm kind of curious about that. I have a feeling it's mislabeled and there's actually going to be some horror to it. But have you seen any of his movies?
I actually have not. And honestly, so many of those sounded really good to watch. So I got to put them on my list now.
Oculus is good. I honestly don't remember much of what it's about, other than that there's this like magic mirror that these two brothers, this brother and sister couple find. And I don't know. I just remember it being like really good and creative when I saw it.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and dive into it, man. The Haunting of Hill House. It was originally a book by Shirley Jackson. It was adapted into a film in 1963, which at the time, I mean, it's one of the most beloved like ghost movies of the 60s and that era. And then this is I think the only other film or television adaptation of it. There's been a bunch of plays and all that. But for my money, this is the best adaptation of the story that I've seen. And also, I'll just say this is like the best horror television show and one of the best television shows that I've probably ever seen, in my opinion. I'm not alone. I think this is one of the most highly praised TV shows out there.
Yeah, it's like I want to recommend this show to everyone, but it's like so scary and freaky sometimes.
Right.
And it's unfortunate. Like people, I'm like, I know you would like it if you could get over the horror aspect of it.
I love
it's really good storytelling too.
Dude, what's funny, man? Like I've been doing this show for a little over a year now, and I was doing my buddy Dylan's show for maybe a year and a half. Like I've been like really deep in the horror world for about 3 years, watching an insane amount of horror movies. This is up there with some of the scariest shit that I watch. And I would probably say this is like the scariest thing that I've covered on the channel. Cause like something I found out about myself is like, I tend to lean more towards the psychological stuff, or I guess what it is like ghost stories are the ones that scare me the most.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's rare that I actually feel like anything. This does it. Like he does it just by like taking the sound out and moving the camera real slow. It's so interesting to see, like, it's not like a secret technique. He didn't come up with it. Everybody that makes movies knows about the slow zoom.
Yeah.
But there's something about the way that he does it. And then I was talking to my wife about this. I keep noticing it more and more in like actual scary moments in like horror set pieces. A second can make all the difference in the world. If sometimes when the camera just lingers for just an extra second, it adds all this like scariness to it. And I assume Mike Flanagan's a big part of the editing, but whoever's in there controlling the editing and like when to switch scenes and when to cut, it's just so fucking good. And then the music, a lot of times it's the fact that there's no music and there'll just be this slow white noise that you don't even notice, but it's like,
or like I just noticed in episode 5, no spoilers, just like the use of windshield wipers as like a beat to cause tension in a scene.
Yeah. That makes me think of, there's a lot of good like transitions. I love him as a director.
Yeah,
I think
almost
he's
like
really cool.
Jump scare transitions.
Yeah. The one that I was thinking of, it isn't quite a jump scare. It's when I think it's in the first episode that we'll get into in a few minutes, but when Theo's dancing with that chick at the club and like she kind of dips her and then they just transition into her like, having like these sexual moans. It's so good. He's really good at balancing tones. He's really good at having you one moment, like in the fourth episode, there's one moment, and we'll get into all these more specifically, but there's a moment where he's standing outside in the street, and I started to think to myself, like, yeah, it's funny. Like sometimes there's no fear at all, right? Like you'll be in a different environment, you're away from the house or whatever, and there's no like atmosphere of fear at all. And then like on a dime, everything changed. Like as soon as I thought that, next thing you know, Luke looks over and he sees the floating guy, and like I don't know, it was just like Mike Flanagan's ability to kind of control the tone, but and the fear, and just all of a sudden crank it up. Like, oh, you weren't scared, and just change
no
the
space
tone.
is safe. Yeah, like honestly, I think most of the jump scares occur outside of the house, like when they're adults.
Right. And God, this TV show has some of, I think, the best moments, and we'll get into it. It'll be the last thing we talk to, but I'll just say I think the bent neck lady reveal, which comes in episode 5, which we'll get to. I was so glad when I looked at the episode list. I'm like, oh, cool, we get to finish with that one.
I've had the exact same thought, because I really, for some reason, thought it was like towards the end of the show.
So did my wife.
It's such a big reveal, but yeah, episode 5. Yeah.
Hell yeah, man. All right, well, let's dive into it, man. We're gonna go through each one of the first 5 episodes very, very briefly. I'll give a real quick synopsis of it, and I'll tell you the actor's name that's kind of highlighted in each one of them. So the first episode, called Steven Sees a Ghost. So we've got the big brother Steve. He's the main character in this one, played by Michael Heisman as an adult and Paxton Singleton as a little fella. And basically, we get a lot of info in this one because they're introducing the whole family. I feel like Steven kind of gets shorted a little bit because they're focused more on everybody else in his episode because they've got to intro everyone. But we're learning about the family's past at Hill House. And the big thing we learn is that there's a night when they're kids that the last time they're at Hill House, they have to flee in the middle of the night, and they leave their mom there, and she's never been seen since. She's supposedly dead. We're not 100% at this point in the show what has happened to her, and I honestly don't remember completely, so I'm kind of looking forward to getting to that. But in the present day, we learn that Steve is now an author. He's written a very successful book about the family's past at Hill House. We have him going to this lady's house and investigating this ghost story and spending the night at her house. And then at the end, spoiler, at the end, we find out that Nell, we don't get all the details, but there's a reveal that she is probably dead because Steven sees a ghost for the first time. Scared the shit out of me. That's a super creepy ass moment. But what do you think, brother? Just the opening episode, Steven sees a ghost. What you think?
I thought very good opening. Does a good job balancing, creating mystery as well as introducing the entire family. Like, oh, you have to introduce the family twice.
Right. Yeah.
Like old and young.
And a great job with the casting too, right? From child to adult actors.
Yeah, and really cute kid, like child stars too.
Yeah. Especially Luke and Nell.
Yeah, and to go back to your point about like Steven getting like the short straw, like because it's like the first episode, so there's not as much focus on him. I think that's kind of intentional because the main part of that episode is the last night, and Steven's the last one to get taken out of the house because he was asleep through most everything. So he is the least to reveal during that scene.
Right. That's a good point. I remember, I think that was one of the things that I found a little bit disappointing on my first watch through is, traditionally you go in and this guy's like the main character of the first episode. I felt like by the end of it, he's, if there is a main character, it's Nell, right?
Yeah.
Would you agree on that? It's kind of her story. Everybody's obviously getting their stories. She's the focal point. I feel like Steven kind of gets lost in the mix as it goes. And he becomes less likable. I just kind of figured like, oh, this is our perspective character.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I guess they use him to introduce the story, but it's more and more it becomes Nell's story. But it's all like the different siblings' point of views with Nell. Not right. I mean, like, one episode or a couple episodes follow Nell, but it's mostly like the other siblings as they interact with Nell.
Right. And Michael Heisman, I know him. First of all, he was in Game of Thrones. He was
one episode
Mother of Dragons side piece in Game of Thrones for a minute. And then he plays in The Invitation from 2015, which is a horror movie that's been talked about quite a bit. It's kind of a running gag, here on Blood Splatter Chatter. Some hate it, some think it's amazing.
I feel like I don't comment this very often, but his attempt at an accent kind of took me out of some of his scenes.
I didn't even notice it. What kind? Like a northeastern accent,
or just like because I think he's I think he's British. I don't know. It sounds like he's doing like just like not like a cheesy or stereotypical.
Now I got to
like,
look into it.
Yeah, I could be completely wrong because I first knew him from Game of Thrones. So I'm like, this guy must be British.
House of, I got to pull him up. I thought I had him. All right, now I got it because I'm really curious. Michael Heisman is how I'm going to say his name. Is a Dutch actor. You nailed it, brother. I did not pick up on it. Yeah, I missed that. That's funny. But I will say, to answer your question, girl boss, not based on a true story, based on the 1959 book by Shirley Jackson. What up, Chill? Thanks for popping in, brother. Yeah, for my bit on it, dude, I think like I said, episode 1, it has the hardest job. It's setting everything up. So on a second watch, it's a tiny bit tedious because you already know everybody. There's it's a lot of information that you're kind of given to you that you don't necessarily need. But for what they do, like I said, it's got incredibly scary moments. The way they open it up with Nell, your introduction to the idea of the bent neck lady, which keeps coming back. There's just a few really creepy moments that Nell's ghost at the end. It's fucking fantastic. But and also, I love everybody that they introduce. I think I'm a big fan of the entire cast.
It also makes me think that like Steven being the oldest, it's like he believes in ghosts less.
Right.
Like the younger kids, whether it's real or not, have more awareness towards this haunted stuff.
That's funny that you say that, man, because now that I'm looking at it, what they do, my brother, because a part of the original, like the book and the original movie, you've got a mixture of believers and skeptics.
Yeah.
And there's like these debates going back and forth. And I noticed at the end, at this first episode, is about Steve being a skeptic. He goes to this woman's house and he's picking her story apart, her ghost story. And then the next one opens up with Cheryl or Shirley. I think it's
Shirley.
They call her Shirley. I could have fucking sworn they call her Cheryl at one point.
They call her Cheryl, which probably sounds like Cheryl.
Oh, okay, that is it. She opens up kind of giving her speech to that kid where she's talking about how she doesn't believe in ghosts, and she's the second oldest. And then it goes down the line. Theo, the next episode 3 is Theo. She's the third oldest. Then it's Luke, and then it's Nell, the baby. I think that's the order. I think Nell's the youngest.
So well, Luke and Nell are twins.
Oh, yeah. Da. Okay.
But I think Luke is older than Nell. I don't know.
That's cool, though. They kind of invert it by age and level of skepticism.
Yeah.
And like who's seen the ghost, which kind of makes sense. So that way, by the time we get to the episodes that are focused on people that have actually seen the ghosts, we're a little bit deeper in the series before we get these full reveals and shit. That's cool.
And according to Steven in the first episode, he's never even seen a ghost.
Right. Which is funny because he's the successful author writing all these ghost stories.
Writing other people's stories.
All right. Well, do you want to? I didn't mention at the forefront of this, but the way we decided to do this, we're gonna go ahead and give each a grade to each episode individually, which will be fun. Another thing I didn't mention is that we will be following this up next Sunday with the final episodes of this. So, final thoughts on episode 1 and where are you at on a grade, my brother?
I'm gonna grade it as a first episode, not like an episode in general, if that makes sense. Because I feel like it does so much as a first episode. So I gave it a 4.25 out of 5.
Right there with you. 4.25 out of 5. Like I said, I don't know. I was almost a little bit disappointed because I hadn't seen this in so long. And I wanted to be like blown away by episode 1. But like you said, you got to judge it based on what it is. And episode 1 has a more difficult job than all the other ones. And luckily, I was blown away by episode 2. Episode 2 is fucking amazing, man. Let me ask you a personal question. Peter, did you cry at all when you watch this? Anytime you've ever seen this? Is there any tears ever? Because there is for me. Like this whole episode, I'm fucking welling up. The majority of it, dude. It's so sad.
I don't know if I've ever cried during this show. Yeah, I can't say I have.
I cry a lot, man. I cry a lot. But the show fucking gets well. I mean, it's a thing about ghost stories in general. They should be sad. it's almost something that makes me want to reevaluate a lot of movies that I didn't like in the past, because like a good ghost story, it's about death. This whole thing is about death. It's about like leading up to this funeral for Nell, and the death that they've experienced as children and shit.
And
it's
like unfinished business too.
Right. And just about the way your childhood affects your present and all that. Like,
yeah,
I
I'm
don't
a
know.
sucker for that stuff.
That's why I said, like, for me, the best moments of this are when it's at its saddest and scariest. Like, it jumps between super sad and super fucking scary, in my opinion. But okay, so this second episode entitled Open Casket. Shirley is the lead in it. Adult actress is Elizabeth Reeser, and the child is Lulu Wilson. And we get this story from Shirley's childhood, where she finds these abandoned kittens with some creepy and sad moments in that. And in the present day, they're dealing with the death of Nell. There's some creepy ass moments. I just wrote a couple down that like I had to mention. The part where they're sitting on the bed with the dad, and like something scary happened. He's telling him like it's over. It's over.
Oh yeah, because the walls are banging.
Yeah, that's a great moment. And then just this moment at the end of the episode where Shirley, her big thing is that Nell's dead and she is a mortician, and she decides that she's going to be the one that cleans and takes care of the body and puts the makeup on her. And there's a moment at the end where she has a vision of her mom, her dead mom, and the cat box open. It goes meow, and then it slams. And I thought it was so scary, like, and funny at the same time. But
yeah,
great episode, great fucking episode.
What I really liked about this episode is that it shows you more of the family dynamic, which I'm just like such a sucker for. Like someone coming from a slightly dysfunctional family, I'm just like, yes, show me like the sibling hierarchy order and stuff. And you really see that Shirley is the most responsible of the kids. Like Steven's the oldest, but Shirley is the one that like is really like giving commands and getting shit done.
And she's the protector, which I like. She's like the motherly one with those kittens.
Yeah,
too. She's like the big brother.
Her experience, like it shows you like like these huge moments you have as a kid, how they shape you into an adult. And like she has that first experience with death and the kitten funeral, and then she grows up and becomes a mortician. Oh, also, well, they show the scene of her at her mother's funeral. That's not a spoiler?
No.
Where like the guy like walks her down because she's scared.
Right. I thought that was funny. That's one thing my wife said. She's like, funeral directors do not do this stuff. Like she's like acting as a counselor for the kids whose grandma died. I'm like, I don't think this is a real thing. Maybe.
But as you like the conversation Shirley has with her husband is that like Shirley is always going above and beyond for the customers by like usually giving them a whole bunch of discounts, which they cannot afford. So she like really sympathizes or empathizes really with the grieving.
Right. No, that's a good point. And they show her, like you said, kind of where she learned to do that with this funeral director when she was a kid. She's great. And I just think all the kids, they nailed it. Like, I really believe that the Shirley from a child, like, I just believe it's the same fucking person.
Yeah.
Looking through, but how about when the bug crawls out of the kitten's mouth?
Oh.
One of the great moments. She's like, "Oh, it's alive!" And I'm like, "Oh my god, it is alive! She's magical. She brought it back to life." And then a bug crawls out of its mouth. Like, oh my god!
And then like the other one, its eyes open, and you're like, "Oh, what is it going to be this time?" And its eyes are just like rotted and white.
Yeah, that's freaky, man. And then at the end of it, I think I'm just realizing that now. At the end of it, her mom's eyes look like that.
Yeah.
Like I wrote down deadline.
And she witnesses a bug crawl. She hallucinates a bug crawling out of Nell's mouth.
Yeah. That's wild shit, man. The whole, just the idea of being the one that is doing the funeral work on your loved one.
So messed up. And everyone tells her, don't do it. Let someone else do it. Ugh.
All right, where am I at here? Let's go ahead and rate this one. If you got anything else to say, of course.
Throw it in there, I originally gave it a lesser score, but I think I'm going to bump it up to a 4.5 because you convinced me that it is better than I originally thought.
Yeah. I'm looking at my wrong score.
Because also funeral homes are scary as fuck.
Right. I mean, they are, dude. I mean, I had some pretty serious family deaths when I was a kid. Like, this shit, I don't know if it traumatized me, but it's terrifying. It's like the first time you see a dead body and you have to walk up to that casket. I remember it, and it's like the most tragic shit I ever had to go through. I was having a hard time finding my score. I gave it a 5 out of 5 because anything that makes me feel like that, like to me, is just like amazing. Like I don't know, I just couldn't believe how. Now, first of all, I was so excited that I was that into it after I was like a little like not super crazy into the first episode or not blown away by it. So into this one. And yeah, I thought it was so goddamn sad and effective and a great ending too. Like with the mom and the kitty box, like I mentioned, it was like a great way to send the. I love when an episode can send you home with like something scary and funny and just like get
And
out.
that's why she froze when the guy, like the grieving customer, came in with the purple box of his mother's things, and she was like, she stood there frozen, and then you realize it's the similar purple box of the kittens.
Right. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so a 4.5 from you and a 5. I went crazy. I went a little bit crazy. I gave it a 5. All right, so the next one is episode 3, where we have Theo as our lead character, played by. Oh wait, let me get down to where I've got
wonderful Kate Siegel.
Kate Siegel and McKenna Grace as a child. Kate Siegel. Let's just start there. If she never auditioned for Wonder Woman, I don't know what she was thinking. She is the most Wonder Woman looking human being.
I never thought about that.
On
You're right.
the planet. Yeah. She's just got that like badassery to her, and then just like unbelievably gorgeous brunette, just like fucking so strong looking.
I'm so in love with her. Every time I see her in one of these Flanagan things, she's usually my favorite character.
Right.
Yeah.
Good. You know, I'm that's one thing I saw. Just like I looked at the cast for Blind Manor before this. I'm like, okay, she's in it. I'm pretty sure that was the one. Yeah. I was like, I want her to be in all of them. And she's in some of the movies too.
Yeah. I know she's in Hush.
Oh, is she the lead in Hush? Is that her?
Yeah. I think so, yeah.
No shit. Okay. It's been a while since I've seen that. They took that off Netflix. She's in I saw part of Ouija Origin of Evil, and I'm pretty damn sure she's in that one too. So maybe she's in them all.
I feel like she's the most used in the Flanagan universe.
Okay.
Flanagan multi-cinematic universe. That's what we call it. The CSU.
I think they call it the Flaniverse.
Flaniverse, yeah. I got my acronym way off.
It's close enough. And basically in this episode, as a child, we learn that she has these abilities. She's a mutant pretty much, where if she touches things, she can like, do all this psychic mojo, and she picks up stuff by touching objects. Hence the reason why she wears these gloves. And we learned out that her mom is the one that gave her the gloves, and that she probably, it seems like she has these powers too, and so did her mom. So these gifts run in the family.
If I may, off of that scene, I feel like that's a really important scene when the mom is talking to Theo about like their powers. Because she says like all of the daughters have some kind of powers. Shirley like talks in her sleep and says like very interesting things.
Yeah.
And Nell says like the house when they moved in was really loud, which is unique. And then and I think it's in episode 5. It's like Nell's like, that wasn't mommy, talking about, when the last night events happen. So it's like they all kind of have a gift. And I think it's implying that they come from a line of witches. And so like that's why like only the women have powers.
Interesting. I've never put that together.
Yeah. Because then like she says like the grandma had the same type of powers that Theo does.
Very interesting.
It makes me think that these are like, maybe they were a coven or something eventually at one point.
I'm just realizing I've had my notes covering up the chat. What's Chill got to say? Oh shit, Stu's in this bitch. Oh my god. E says right there with you, Vern, crying like a baby. For real, man. Stu, my brother, what up, man? Good to see you in here. Chill says, Stu, no spoilers, but congrats. On new MCU Doctor Doom, couldn't be happier. I haven't seen any news on this. I have
really?
How did you? I have no idea what they're talking about.
What were you doing?
No,
yesterday?
I'm just joking. I did see it. What's funny, I did see it, and then I jumped in the back chat, this group chat we have with all these knuckleheads in the chat and others, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna see if they've seen this, and I looked, and they'd all been talking about it for an hour and a half. I'm like, I can't keep up. Never mind. Okay, everybody's good. I'll just go to bed. But yeah, that's some big fucking crazy news.
Yeah, it is.
Wild. We'll talk about that afterwards. Remind me. But all right, where were we, my friend? I think I didn't even finish setting this one up. So we have in her the adult present section of this one, we find out that Theo, she works with what is her job?
She's like a child psychologist.
Okay, she's a child psychologist, and she uses her ability to suss out that this child that she was psychologizing, that her foster father has been molesting her. She gets him busted, she gets him locked up, and there's this whole Mr. Smiley thing. I don't know if I fully understood that. The kid created a monster in her head because of the trauma, and then she says she planted that monster in Theo's head.
Yeah, it's like that trauma was so severe that when Theo touched the girl's hand, that that trauma like transferred into Theo and
because of her powers.
I guess because of her powers, yeah. And like it for a short time became as real to Theo as it did to the little girl. So like she saw him standing at the foot of her bed, which to me was the biggest jump scare of the entire season for me.
Oh yeah, I can see that. That's a freaky ass fucking looking face. Yeah, that's super freaky.
And that's like one of those instances of like it's quicker than you expect it to happen, because there's so many of these long, like when someone wakes up in the middle of the night, it's usually like a really long look around the room, but this was a lot quicker, and I think that's why it got me.
Right. Yeah, it jumped the timing. You were ready to settle in on that shit. Yeah, and then at the end of the episode, one of my favorite moments, I don't even know what we've got from that. Yeah, I assume in a later episode, we'll find out what Theo saw when she touches Nell's corpse at the end of the episode and then freaks out.
Yeah, I assume we saw what happens in episode 5.
Right. Amazing. I love that. Just, for me, I was like, the whole show is very Stephen King-y. Right. And then this is maybe the most Stephen King-y aspect of it, that one of the kids has a special ability. But I thought it was used in unique ways, specifically that moment with Nell. Like, what a cool, you have the ability to touch something and read, the minds or whatever, to pick things up psychically from an object. To touch your sister's dead corpse is a very cool fucking way to use that. And then plus, they were aware. They wrote this. They're probably an X-Men fan, because they know, with great power comes great bullshit. You know what I mean? The burden of these powers, pretty much. They play with that in a pretty cool, if not entirely original way. I think it was done pretty well to squeeze something like that into this horror show.
Yeah, I was thinking, like, where's the spin-off show about the detective who solves crimes by like touching objects and learning their history?
Right. Let's go ahead and rate this one. If you got anything else, of course, we'll get into it. You guys in the chat, if you guys got any other things you would like to pose to us about this series, throw it down there as well. The kids got powers, he says, are the most Stephen King-like thing in the series. Yeah, the kids' powers are very Stephen King-like.
Yeah, definitely. This is my favorite episode. I give this a 5. Maybe it's because I love Kate Siegel. Maybe it's because I'm a middle child just like Theo. Maybe it's because it's really cool how like they weave in like child trauma and the psychology aspect of it. I really like that.
I do too, man. And I like how I feel like they do this really well in this episode and then the next 2 episodes, to where you have a hard time thinking, is it just trauma? Is there something actually like supernatural going on?
Yeah. It's like ripples in the first 2 episodes, and then by Theo, who is younger, it's like what she experiences at Hill House is much more like stronger and severe,
right,
than it was with Shirley and I guess not Dead Kitten severe.
I mean,
it was more practical with Shirley and Steven.
Right. It's like the more open-minded the character, the worse the supernatural shit, the childhood stuff was to him.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's kind of the way they wrote the characters. The younger they are, the more open-minded they are. The older, the more closed off they are, less accepting or whatever of it. I'm going to give it, I'm trying to find my score here. I know it was a good one. This one titled Touch. Oh my God, I didn't write it down.
No.
I did up here. I just got to scroll up.
Okay, well, I'll stall for you because we should also mention the dumbwaiter scene.
Yeah.
Maybe one of the best scenes of the whole season too. It's so freaky.
Which one are you talking about? You're talking like when Luke goes down. That's this
when Luke
episode.
Goes down. Yeah.
They find that. They find this hidden room. They find this
Yeah.
fancy wine. And freaky thing fucking crawling at Luke.
And then his shirt gets torn, so like it was real.
Right.
Or maybe a rat just carried that piece of cloth.
That was very
into the middle of the room.
Freddy Krueger of them. Okay, I gave it a 4.25.
All right. I'll allow that.
What else did I have in my notes here? Wonder Woman. Say that she looks like Wonder Woman. I also have written down here, this is something I wanted to mention, like in general, about horror TV that I've watched after spending these couple years watching almost nothing but horror movies and reviewing them and studying them and breaking them down. There's writing, there's like sloppy, shortcutty writing that you can get away with on TV in a great TV show that you couldn't get away with in a good movie. I don't know what specifically I was talking about. I think in this one, there's a couple monologues from side characters, like Theo's girlfriend and Luke's girlfriend both give monologues, and I'm like, oh my God. There's some really eye-rolling monologues throughout the show. The woman in the first episode that's got the dead husband that's giving this monologue to Steve, it sounded like she wrote it down ahead of time.
It was a tough opening episode.
She's like, she says some line like, and then I realized that I should scream, and I hadn't screamed, so I did scream. It's like, that is so like ripped right out of a Stephen King paragraph. And it's not, I don't know. There's some acting and there's some monologues that like would not fly in a really good movie that do fly in a great television show. It's kind of interesting. There's a different level to the
you have more time for that slightly off dialogue.
Right. Or it's just like there's like a lower standard. Well, here's the thing. There's the other thing I was gonna say is like there's way more, like even in Game of Thrones, like I watch some shit and it's like there's some shitty sloppy writing in that, but it's like so much more complex of writing that they need to hold your hand a little bit on certain ways because it can get so confusing. The story is so convoluted that they have to take shortcuts with you to make sure everybody's on the same fucking page and following along.
Same with this show too. It's two different timelines and it's jumping back and forth. It needs to hold your hand a bit.
Right, hell yeah. All right, so a 4.25 for me and a 5 from you. These are big scores. Episode 4 with the lead character Luke. Did I not write down the title? Oh, you son of a bitch. Oh, no, I did. The twin thing. I think this is another one of my favorite episodes. This one is fire. I'm not even sure I fully understood it the first time I watched it. Either that or I forgot about the way that...
Let's talk about that, because what do you not understand?
Oh, we'll get to it in just a moment. Basically, in the past, we've got Luke's... we learn a little bit more about his little imaginary friend, Abigail. Not a lot more, but a little bit more. And then this floating man guy, which is another just amazing, creepy ass.
I think he calls him the tall man, or maybe I'm wrong about that.
No, I mean, there's a couple tall men out there in horror. I would have picked a different name, but I wrote down floating man. Just the idea of this
bowler hat man.
Yeah, this guy just floating around is just so.
But he still uses
creepy.
His cane.
Yeah, he's super creepy to me. And then the majority of the episode deals with present day Luke going through rehab, and I thought it has some eye-rolly moments where his little girlfriend and they go to dinner at Steve's and she gives this speech and I'm like, oh my fucking God. But it totally makes up for that with just how deep it gets. And here's what I don't think I got. It's a little bit confusing, but it's supposed to be confusing, where you're not sure if Luke is on drugs or not.
Okay, I can answer this one.
Well, no, I mean, I get it now. I didn't fully get it. Like what we have is that he is feeling, because at the end of the episode, he's like, I'm all fucking cold and my legs and arms feel stiff. I'm like, oh my God, it's rigor mortis. Like either I had forgotten that or I just didn't get it the first time, that he is feeling his twin's death. Nell killed herself and he feels like what it feels like for her to be dead. And it makes him look like he's on drugs. And they use that to make the audience think like, oh, he's on drugs. And then it's like a reveal at the end. And I'm not sure if I got the first time.
Well, I mean, maybe this because I watched it a couple times, but it's you're first introduced to Luke in the first episode when he just broke into Steven's apartment and he looks like he's using, and they've mentioned before when they're talking about Luke that he's an addict. So it's just like you immediately assume. Right. And the show I think does a great job of doing this, of like reverting back to scenes and showing you the other side of the story.
Exactly.
And it's like, oh, I really made assumptions during that first one. And so I think when this episode comes along and that night is happening, yeah, it's almost like, oh, it's the twin thing. It's like his
Right.
twin is dead, of course, and they've like, of course, they feel it
Right. So
because he's
good.
like
It's so
touching
good.
his neck.
Well, they kind of
Also,
trick you. Yeah, they kind of trick you because they have a moment where his junkie girlfriend, she's just scored, and he's like, "Do you have any left?" And you
they were
see him.
just friends, by the way.
Yeah, I was like, there was more than that. Yeah, he takes it from her. So now he's got her stash, and then the next time you see him, he's all fucking junky looking. And you're like, oh, he must have done it. But it was just a really, I thought it was fucking brilliant the way that
Yeah,
they
seriously
did it.
brilliant. But also, like going back to they're not boyfriend and girlfriend, I truly think that matters because he's no longer he's in rehab and he's no longer seeing his twin anymore, who
Right.
he's like the closest with. So having another platonic female relationship is one of his addictions, I
And
think.
he does say that she reminds him of Nell.
Yeah. So
That's a
like
good point.
when she even kisses him before going into the alley, which was for her just a
Yeah.
cover to pickpocket the cash out of him.
He's like, what are you doing?
Yeah. And it's
Yeah,
like
that's
you
a
can
good
see
point.
how uncomfortable he is, but it's like I think also at that point he's still like it looks like he's using, but it's because of his
Right.
his twin withdrawal, I guess. Yeah.
How about that moment? That I thought was another great moment that just like ripped my heart out of my chest when she's like, "I'm gonna go to the little junkie's room," and she takes his money that he just got for her and burns him. He put all his faith in her, and she burns him right away. That was a really good moment.
And then he gets like beat up later because of
right.
it.
Which I mean, it makes it even more believable. You're like, "Oh, of course he's gonna use again."
Yeah.
Look
I think
what everything that just happened to him.
I think he might have been that actor, Oliver Jackson Cohen, might have been one of the best of the older siblings.
I agree. I think he's fucking great. But I think Nell's probably my favorite, and he's probably my Theo. Theo is so good too. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll rank him at the end of this. I'm all right. So what did you got? Anything else on this one, or you want to go ahead and rate it, bad boy? Rate this bad boy?
The floating tall hat man is so fucking scary. That was like I think each episode just gets scarier and scarier as we go through the kids.
I think so too.
Ugh.
I think so too. I'm kind of scanning through because I took notes just on like moments that happened in the show. I'm trying to look and see if there's anything else that I wanted to point out. I guess that's
also
it.
Kid Luke is the cutest out of them all with his big Coke bottle glasses.
He probably is. It's for him. I want to see what I actually looked into seeing what the actress that plays Nell is doing now. I didn't even realize she's the girl from Megan. I don't know if you happened to see Megan that came out a couple years ago.
No, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, she's the girl from that, and I didn't even realize when I watched that. I'm like, oh god, how did I miss it? She's such a cute little kid, especially in this when she's like, younger and everything.
Oh, she was also in Black Widow. She was young Yelena.
Oh, in the opening bits. Yeah. That's awesome. She's a good fit for that role too, playing.
And Flanagan also put her in Dr. Sleep.
God damn. It's crazy how I just didn't recognize her in the stuff I saw her in later. Yeah. Have you seen that, by the way? Or no, you said you hadn't seen any of his. That is well worth your time. If assuming you've ever watched The Shining, Dr. Sleep should being that good.
Hold on.
What?
Young Luke is from WandaVision. He's one of the twins.
Shut up. He's one of the Rent-A-Kids?
Remember
Billy. We were making fun of him?
Yeah.
Didn't we do an episode together on that?
I feel
like it was me and you. We were like talking about these dollar store kids that they had. He was one of them. But no, they had two versions of those kids. They had like a pair come in and they grew up like a few years later.
He's the oldest one.
I bet. Because
the one who will be used again in future Marvel stuff.
That's
crazy.
I'm glad you pointed that out.
Those glasses that make them unrecognizable.
And then at the end of the episode, it's worth pointing out that Steve tells Luke, he thinks Luke's all fucked up, and he's like, Nell killed herself. It was a suicide. And he's like, no, Steve, it wasn't. So he knows that she didn't kill herself, at least in his mind. I still don't know. I've seen the event, and I'm still not sure if she killed herself or not. So let's get into that in a few moments, but let's rate this bad boy first. Where you at, my brother, on episode 4, The Twin Thing?
This one I gave a 4.75.
Bam, that's a fucking good one. I gave it a 5. I might have went a little hardcore, but I gave it a 5 out of 5. I'm a kind of a sucker for a good ending. I think the way that they send that home to where I wasn't even fully sure what was going on until they explained it to me completely and I was supposed to know what was going on. I was like, whoa, that was amazing. They kept me guessing, and I think they did it. I don't think it's all my fault that I didn't fully understand it. I think they did a good enough job of making me think that he was taking drugs and like not letting me realize like what was actually happening.
And it's not just the scene where he's leaving Steven's apartment. It's also like when they're talking, I think it's during Shirley's episode of like, I called the rehab center. They said he escaped out a window. And so like you're only hearing from their point of view and you're thinking, wow, he really is in trouble or something like, or, you know, really in bad shape. But then you watch this episode and you see his point of view. He's doing it because Joey escaped.
Yeah. Chill saying, I haven't seen the show. I haven't seen any blood splatter and just here for the chatter. I love it. I love it. There's blood splatter in the background, bro. I got you. E says, Dr. Sleep, super divisive. I'm in the camp that says it's a masterpiece. What's funny, I was going to say Robbie will be live in 12 minutes, so maybe I should just start talking shit when I know that he can't hear me, and he's definitely not in here, but I'll talk shit anyway. He always talks like he hated that movie. My man's always talking shit about Dr. Sleep. I was on the show that we covered that movie. I think he gave it like a 3.5. You know, he doesn't remember it, but everybody liked that movie. It was a solid fucking movie. Really good. And again, like you hear, oh, they made a sequel to The Shining. Like, well, that's gotta suck. That's gotta be bad. And it was like, whoa, couldn't believe how fucking good it was. But all right, let's get into another thing. I just could not believe how good it was. Like, I'll tell you right now, this is a 5 out of 5. And if yours is it, you're fucking out, Peter. But this fucking blew my mind the first time I seen it. The Bent Neck Lady episode. Main character is Nell, who I feel like is the main character of the whole thing. Eleanor, her counter character from the original. Eleanor is like the perspective character in The Haunting. And very different. Basically, I should have said it at the beginning, but all The Haunting is they take the name Hill House and then all the characters' names with some of their characteristics, and it's people in a house together investigating supernatural phenomenon. They're not a family. They really have nothing to fucking do with each other. But anyway, Nell as an adult played by Victoria Pedretti, I'll say it, and as a child by Violet McDraw, as we talked about, from Megan and the other things that we mentioned. And in this episode, we learn about her. As an adult, she has sleep paralysis. And through that, she meets her husband, dude named Arthur. They get married. They're madly in love. And then she sees the Bent Neck Lady, and then he dies. She says the Bent Neck Lady killed him. We don't know exactly, like, if it's a coincidence or whatever, but he has an aneurysm. He dies. Incredibly sad, I thought. And then at the end of the episode, we learn more about the night that the family had to escape and leave the mom behind. We get some more bloody details about that. I thought it was so good. And the biggest thing is that we find out, spoiler, giant fucking spoiler. If you have not seen this show, just get out of here. Like, really, you don't want to hear this. It's so fucking good. So good. Okay.
I think first you got to explain
who the Bent Neck Lady is. I think most people have fucking seen it. But okay, but yeah.
Okay.
Nell has been haunted by this bent neck woman. We see her. It's one of the first things that we see in episode 1. There's this lady. She sees her standing at the end of the bed. She sees her floating above her. All these different moments throughout the show. We see her seeing her as an adult.
At what point she's going, no.
Yeah. Oh my God.
So creepy.
When they flash to that later and you actually see it, it's like, I'm getting chills literally right now just thinking about it, man. It's so amazing.
Good.
What we find out is that Nell is the Bent Neck Lady. Fucking crazy. So she goes to the house, and another one of these fucking great moments, an amazing moment. Adult Nell walks into the house. It's haunted. The house on Haunted Hill. It's night. Everything's creepy. The house is dilapidated. No one's lived there in like 26 years. But she walks in, and all of a sudden everything is pristine. It was night. Now it's daylight, and the young cast is there. So like, there's something about that. It's something so weird to take the present day cast and mix it with the childhood cast. And she is playing her childhood self, like in her adult body.
Yeah. She kind of like babies her voice a little bit.
Yeah. She ends up doing it because she's like, mommy wants to see me. Oh my God. Yeah. It's so fucking sad. And there's this whole like, and then all of a sudden the adult cast shows up, her dead husband shows up, and they're like having this reception.
It's like they're all in their outfits from the wedding, which you see earlier in the episode. So it's like they're redoing the wedding, but at Hill House.
Incredible. And then it flashes, she's dancing with her husband who's dead through the house. It's this magical moment. They're waltzing through this beautiful house, and then it flashes to the image of what's really going on, where it's just her with this crazy look in her face dancing around this dilapidated house by herself. And it's like another just absolutely fucking incredible moment. And then we see her not necessarily commit suicide. It's like her mom, or a ghost that looks like her mom, tricks her into hanging herself. And then when she does this, it's like it's her falling through her life. And we see her fall into each of the moments that we've seen previously in the show. Every time she's been haunted as a child, we see that it was her haunting herself. And then the best part is that we see her realizing that she's been the one haunting herself. And that's when she's like, no. And it's like, oh my fucking God. So I just imagine that's like how she just continues. She just like is stuck in this like limbo of falling and hanging yourself over and over. I'm full of goosebumps right now. It's so incredible to me. I love it so much.
Because I can't fully explain why it's so good, but I guess you don't expect if Bent Neck Lady was the only like ghost character,
right?
Then you could maybe put something together of like, I wonder who the Bent Neck Lady is. But the fact that there's so many other ghosts and monsters, I guess.
Right.
It's like you don't even think about the identity of the Bent Neck Lady.
Because that's something I was going to ask you. It never crossed your mind.
Not even once.
Yeah.
Because you don't know how the mom dies either.
Right. Exactly. And I never would have thought that it was her. You just assume it's, somebody else.
It's the house, spirit of the house. Yeah.
Yeah. It has a past. There's all sorts of ghosts that we know about.
When she's dancing with her husband at Hill House, and she's like the camera's spinning around them, and you see the older brothers and sisters, and then slowly it turns to the other ghosts. Like you see the tall man with the hat. You see a couple of
I almost rewound it. Was going to write down who everybody is.
I think you see like Jacqueline Hill, the daughter who would drink out of the cup of stars, and maybe like the older woman who was sick in the bed.
Right.
You see like the other ghosts of the house.
It's so cool, man. Fucking incredible. I just think it's one of the best moments in television history. It really, really is. Yeah. Like I am prone to hyperbole, but I'll stand by that forever. I can't think of a more like holy shit moment that they tricked me, and then it hits as hard as it does.
And only in episode 5.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's funny that you said that, like, because my wife said the same thing. She assumed, like, from her memory that was episode 7 or 8. And I will say now, I'm really looking forward to not just watching the rest of it, but reviewing the rest of it with you next week. I do remember, and I feel like, the most people feel like it dips off towards the end. I know there's some great episodes to come. There's one where I think it's Nell's funeral, and it's like one.
It's not the funeral. It's just like the night before the funeral.
Okay, yeah.
And it takes place. The entire episode takes place in the funeral. Well, supposed to take place in the funeral home, but it's like a lot of like single camera long shots.
Don't they kind of do it like it's clearly not one shot, but I'm remembering it like they kind of make it look like it's all one shot.
You go through a dark hallway, and it's an easy place to cut camera. But yeah, and take it from Daredevil season 1. That's the second Daredevil reference I've made, and then there's one in this. There's a Daredevil reference in this show.
What is it?
In the Shirley episode, her son wants to go dressed up as Daredevil for Halloween.
That's funny. What's the reference to Daredevil season or episode 1? Did they do that? Like pretended it's all in one shot?
No, but this show was after Daredevil, who I feel like didn't make the single shot famous, but like hyped it up.
Oh, you're talking about just like very long takes.
Yeah.
That specifically I'm thinking of like that hallway fight. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
Yeah, and then I mean like Daredevil basically did it every season after that, and probably will do it again in the new one.
Right. There is a 1948 Alfred Hitchcock movie.
Is that Jimmy Stewart?
That's Jimmy Stewart right there. That's good. I fucking love this movie, man. This is Rope from 1948. And in this, Hitchcock, he basically shot the thing in like 5 takes, but it doesn't look, they're kind of pretending like it's all one take, the entire movie, where they'll take the camera and they'll like run it across someone's back and then kind of linger for a second and then move on and just do a little that you can really tell every time they do it. But it's the same idea. It's Hitchcock trying to do something fucking crazy. But anyway, man, let's go ahead and rate this bad boy. You got any other thoughts on the Bent Neck Lady episode?
You already said my rating, 5 out of 5.
It's gotta be.
Yeah.
Gotta be, man.
The reveal makes it 5 out of 5.
It absolutely does, man.
And poor Nell. Poor Nell.
I think she's the best actress in the series for my money. I think there's something about Theo where she's a badass that I like her as a character, but the performance when Nell goes to Steve's book reading, and there's a monologue right there.
Yeah.
They should have had her read everybody else's monologues because she kills it at that moment. There's all the emotion. I think she is really
she does a really good job of portraying like unhinged. Like she is not on her meds. She is not doing well.
Right. She does good with like sad too. Just like disturbed. I'm looking up right now to see what else has this young woman been in.
I think she's in Bly Manor.
She was, movie-wise, she was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
Apparently she was.
I wonder if she was like one of the chicks, one of the Manson girls. She was in a movie called Shirley, Starcrossed, the film, Origin, nothing that I've seen movie-wise. And then as far as television, you're right, she was in Haunting of Bly Manor, and it doesn't look like she's been in any of the other
she's got a pretty
Flaniverse
short IMDb.
Yeah. Stage. So she's doing like stage work still. An Enemy of the People in 2024. So that's her most recent thing. Interesting. I would love to see her in something else because I mean, just this performance and this alone like makes her a horror icon in my mind. She's perfect for the genre.
Yeah, she is. You never know. She could always come back in another Flanagan.
Never enough Daredevil references, my man. All right, so whoa, breaking things. All right, so a 5 out of 5 for both of us here. So I'm trying to think. I should have wrote this all down as we go, and let's rank the cast. Who's your favorite? Let's play that game, bro. Before we get out of here,
Theo's my favorite.
Theo's your favorite. Go down the line. Rank
all
it
right.
for me.
Theo,
adult cast. Just do the
adult cast. Theo, Luke, Nell, Shirley, Steve.
I can get behind. I really like Shirley, but I could see her being towards the bottom too.
It's not like I'm saying bad things about that.
Right.
It's just you got to place them in order.
Funny that Steve is going to end up at the bottom of both our lists, and he's like that. I think is a mistake to a degree. I think they could have done more to make us like or connect to him a little bit more. If they're gonna like,
I think it's going against the stereotype.
Right,
like it's usually always the oldest who's the main character.
Well, to me, it's the fact that he's introduced to us first as the
but
Nell is as a child. I guess
that's a theme throughout the entire show is like little kids' relationships with the paranormal, not just the family, but like the kid at the funeral home, the kid who sees Mr. Smiley. Like there's kids in almost every single episode who deal with some type of paranormal experience, and like adults never believe them.
Right. That's such a theme just in horror in general. Is like believe the kids.
Yeah, and
believe
Steve's
the kids.
Like,
nobody believed me.
13 maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Hell yeah. All right. So I let me do it then. I would say number 1. I gotta say no.
Yeah.
I gotta go Theo, Luke, Shirley, and Steve. So
okay, we're not that far.
We only swapped Theo and Luke right there. I gotta look, man. What has Luke been in? For some reason, I thought I had heard that he's someone that was in quite a bit of stuff. Oliver Jackson Cohen. I might be wrong, but let me look it up real quick. Where the is your Wikipedia, bro? I don't want to look at IMDb. Oh God, I guess I'll look at IMDb. Oh, there it is. I get along so much better. All right. As far as the Flaniverse ones, let's see what he's done since. He is also in Haunting of Bly Manor. And again, that looks
Okay.
like it's it. I wonder if it switches up quite a bit after Haunting of Bly Manor. And I wonder if they have any kind of connection. I know they're different characters, but like so I guess they're not in the same universe. But like when you look it up on Netflix, it says The Haunting Collection. Like they belong together. And it's just
I
those
think
two
that's just
series.
like think of that as Edgar Wright's Cornetto trilogy.
Mm.
It's like they're not like in universe, but it's just a convenient name to call them. Oh, what's up?
Oh, I just he's the Invisible Man. In
Oh,
have you seen that, by the way?
I have
2020's
not.
Invisible Man. He like in that movie, he's not the lead because it is what's her name?
Elizabeth Moss.
Yeah, Elizabeth Moss is the lead, but like the villain is the Invisible Man, and he's invisible. He's presumed dead the whole time, but that's him. He's a dickhead that you see at points in the movie. That's interesting. So he was in that since this movie or since this show, he was in that, The Lost Daughter, Mr. Malcolm's List, Emily, and Jack Draw. So I don't know. Yeah, I guess I haven't seen anything that the dude's been in, but he's great.
His character's name is Peter in Haunting of Bly Manor. So
well, there you go.
Got to mean something.
Yeah, it's got to be great. Never enough Peters. All right. So I was about to say, so let's rate this thing, but I guess we already did that. We rated them all. So yeah, we done did that. Let me just ask you. I'm trying to think, what are the big things that you could think of without like any spoilers? What are the big questions that are left untold? I know we don't know exactly what happens in the Red Room during the Tea Party. We haven't got the full story on the Dudleys. What else can you think of?
The Red Room's definitely the biggest.
Mm-hmm. Which we got a lot of hints of what goes on in the Red Room in episode 5 that I wasn't expecting, where we see the mom, come on, we're going to have a tea party. And that's another thing, rewatching it this time, is all the times that Nell is like, Mom, I want to have a tea party. She's dying for anybody to have a tea party with her. And everyone turns her down the whole time. It's just like everyone giving her the asshole button as she's an adult. It's like a nice parallel there.
Which means she's got to be the youngest, because that's classic happens to the youngest scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just keep thinking of Red Room. I guess like what's to come is what they find in the basement. Like what the dad finds. Yeah.
Right. I know there's an episode, we get an episode where the dad is the lead, right? Obviously.
Yep.
Because we haven't got that. I assume we get one where the mom's the lead. We get one that's focused on the Dudleys, right? The help.
Yeah. We get some more reveals with the Dudleys. Then there's the funeral home episode, which is I think the best one of the whole show.
Oh yeah, well that's the one that won awards. I know that one.
That was so good.
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna watch that tonight.
Yeah, I probably.
I think that's episode 6. There's a good chance it's episode 6.
Yeah, then they're stacking some fire fucking episodes, because 4 or 5, if that's the case, then 4, 5, and 6 to me are like just hot fire. But like I said, I do remember it falling off, and even I've heard other people say they think like maybe the last episode or 2, or maybe just the last episode, like doesn't send it home perfectly.
For
so many things don't.
True. Like for what the story sets up, the ending's a little bit lackluster. But I don't think that takes away from how good this show is, because it's still a good ending.
Okay. I'm really looking forward to it.
In terms of like velocity, it does slow down a bit, that like last episode, but I think it still sticks the landing.
Hell yeah, my brother. All right, well, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this thing up. I forgot to. Actually, I didn't forget to. I ended up at this fucking baby shower a lot longer than I was planning on it, so I didn't get my slideshows together to give the thumbnails for what I got going on next week. But what do I have? I have Oculus from 2013, the second movie, and probably the first one that got like good reviews and put Mike Flanagan's name in a lot of people's mouth. So again, Oculus from 2013. If you were looking for it, it is on Plex. I don't know if a lot of people have heard of what the fuck Plex is, but it's an app you can download for free, and you can watch this for free on Plex with commercials, I'm pretty sure. And then next Sunday, right? Next Sunday, same bat time, same bat channel. Maybe we'll be a little bit earlier, because I don't think I got a baby shower next week, but we'll figure out the details. Next Sunday, we'll be wrapping up The Haunting of Hill House. And then right around the corner, people, we have Horror Fest. is coming up already. We are not that far away. So, my brother, you have any final thoughts before we get up out this bitch?
No.
I love it. I love it. All right. I like that. I like that. Chill says that movie actually freaked me out when I looked into a mirror. Hell yeah. Like, that's the thing. And that's like, I don't know. Like I kind of said at the top of this, for being a horror movie channel, like, don't get me wrong, we do a lot of variety of all sorts of different shit, but there's not much that is like, there's just like a certain kind of horror that does actually scare me. And Flanagan, like, is one of those guys. Like, he does a more creepy style of horror. I think a lot, I don't know, it's usually like the stuff that I do find scary, I don't find as good. But Flanagan does stuff that I find scary and good. Like,
he doesn't rely on the jump scares, but
totally.
he uses them. A lot of I think the most scary is like when he draws your eye to something that's been there the whole time that you don't realize.
100,000%. I love that shit. The most scary is the waiting. He's really good at the suspense and the build up, or just like sitting there looking at a doorknob jiggle, and you're like, what the hell is that?
I'm like begging. I'm like, no, please cut this scene early. Please cut this scene early. Oh no, the shot's holding. Something scary is gonna happen.
Yeah. Like the moment when the tall man, or the tall floating man, is being tall and floating away using his cane after he takes the hat from Luke, and then Luke's like holding his breath and he has to let it out, and he slowly turns back and comes to him. It's really like scary shit.
Yeah, really scary. Mr. Smiley, the scariest of them all.
Yeah. Oh no, I would. He doesn't come back, right? That's just like a one-time thing. Yeah,
and which I think is
the shame of it.
They're allowed to make him the scariest because it really is just like a child's imagination. It doesn't need to be practical, I guess.
Right. We got practical ghosts in the Flaniverse. There's no doubt about it. All right. Quick shout out to the folks that joined us in the chat here live. Chill. We got E. Mr. 9-Panel Grid was up in this bitch. Stu, you sexy son of a slut. Girl Boss was up in here. Appreciate you guys. Really do appreciate you popping in on a Sunday. This is the first time we've ever done any horror TV, but I think we'll continue to dip our toes in this. I would like to do Yellow Jackets at one point. I know a guy that worked on that show.
I think my NDA has expired, so I might be able to talk about
it. No, did you really have an NDA? It was like that?
Yeah.
What were you doing? Just to clarify, since I've said it, you were like editing it.
I was working in the promotions department as an assistant video editor.
That's awesome.
So I got like 90% of the footage from the TV show. I think any scene that dealt with nudity, they didn't allow, or like any like the big like reveals, they didn't give us as much, because like basically what we're using is just like special features and promotions.
Right.
But my job was to like take that footage, put it in order, and like sync everything so the editor can easily go through it and like find footage. So I got to watch the show as it was being filmed, which is completely out of order.
So you were organizing clips for the editor, more or less.
Yeah.
I love that. That's cool. Like categorizing them, putting in certain like folders and shit like that, or just cutting out clips and
really just like taking the footage and like rebuilding the episode.
Oh,
but like cool. But just in like just using one shot per scene.
Very cool, man. Yeah. I love that. That's so damn cool. And especially like when I mentioned to you Yellow Jackets, you're like, I worked on it. I'm like, get the fuck out of it. That's like the best TV show I've seen since this one.
I know.
I don't watch a lot of TV, but that is awesome.
Yellow I no longer work there, and now they're making season 3, and I'm like, damn, I really wish I knew what was going on.
Bet. All right. Well, I appreciate all you guys in the chat. Again, we'll see you Thursday for Oculus. Thank you.
That will be quite enough of